Check Podcasts.
Hi, I'm Bruce Williams. I'm the CEO, or Chief Executive Officer, of the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to Chamber Chats, coming to you as always from the podcasting studios here at the Czech Media Group, one of our Chamber champions. And you're going to meet another one in just a second. I'd like to acknowledge that we are gathered, and where I live is on the ancestral unceded territory of the Lekwungen-speaking nations, known to us as Songhees and Esquimalt nations. And Chamber Chats is made possible by the support of Island Savings, a division of First West Credit Union. I don't usually have my phone this close to me when we're doing this program, but do you get all your news from here now? I mean, everywhere you go, people are constantly on their phone. They rely on that for everything from communication to getting news. Much of what you'll get through social media, you will note, is actually provided to you by what's known as conventional media. In other words, something like the Victoria Times Colonist, who have been around longer than anybody else, and they are thriving, and they are successful, and they are still with us, and probably the leading voice for news locally, along with our friends here at Czech. I want to talk about that with the guy who's in charge, and the reason that they're still operating at the Times Colonist is Dave Obee, who is the publisher and the editor-in-chief of the Times Colonist. Welcome.
Glad to be here, Bruce.
Nice to see you here. So I'm going to start with this. How often does somebody say to you, how are you staying in business? Like, why is print still alive? Why is the paper still going on?
It's actually funny because I hear that a lot. Yeah. A lot of people don't realize they're reading us online. They're reading us on their phone. They're reading us in so many different ways now. And yet they ask me, they think all I am is print.
Yeah.
We are so much more than that. We have more readers online than we do in print. It's very simple. But that question comes a lot. I've had friends ask me, how do I feel about the death of print? We've moved over. Mm-hmm. We're doing print. Our job is to provide information, and we are providing information through print and through digital means.
Yeah, as Mark Twain said, reports of my death are greatly exaggerated.
Exactly.
So that's not the case.
That's right.
The shift has been, it's been necessary, but it's also been one that's allowed you to grow. The company, in fact, has grown because of that virtual element, mm-hmm. right? The digital stuff.
That's correct. We're doing more and more different ways. We're offering more services even. We're offering more information to people. Digitally, we're offering more services to advertisers than ever before. And part of the advantage of having more online, our coverage of our pre-election coverage of the last municipal election was the most comprehensive in the history of the paper, mm-hmm. because we had what was in print plus much, much, much more on our website, where we didn't have to be trimming it down to fit a certain page size or whatever. It could go, and it was very, very dramatic. It really showed everybody, I think, what the value is of having print tied in with a digital product like that.
Without this being overly simple or even a dumb question, what was that transformation like, that shift over into digital from strictly just print?
It's still ongoing,
yeah.
And it's in some ways it's difficult because we have people in our business who are used to having a deadline once a day basically, and then we produce this news on a large sheet of paper, and then we update it 24 hours later. It's a different mindset. We're more like radio now. We have to be sort of continually updating what the information that's coming out there. So that's been a major shift in terms of the thinking in the newsroom, at least, that we are active all the time. If something major is happening, if there's a major traffic accident, or if there's a major schmozzle at the ferries, we tell people right away, real time, what's going on, and it makes a difference to us. But it's a different mindset, and we're not all the way there yet, I don't think. Yeah. We always could do a bit better at that kind of thing, but we made incredible progress in changing things.
So you're still this leader in being a source for news for people. How is that level of service maintained? I don't think any media in town, with a couple of exceptions, are growing in their staff size, yet you manage to keep up with what's going on all the time. Tell me about that.
We are very, very fortunate to have a very dedicated staff. We have incredible leadership in the newsroom. Two people, Brina Hallam and Phil Zhang, are worthy of mention. They're the ones who are doing most of the heavy lifting in the newsroom. Some others are also key. I don't want to give you a full list of the staff members, but a major factor for us is local control, local autonomy, local knowledge. That's what makes us different from, say, the Vancouver Sun or the Globe and Mail. The Globe and Mail is produced in Toronto. The Vancouver Sun is edited in Hamilton, Ontario. We are edited here. The people who are reporting the news in Victoria live and breathe Victoria, and I think that's essential. We have to have the local connection, the local positivity about what we do, and that means people care about the community. They care about the relationships they have in the community. They have to do that or else they fail.
Yeah, the term that I'd like to use is intensely local. You are intensely local because
That's
you're
right.
here and your people are here. Let's go down that one road you mentioned, though, that the fact that that paper is being edited in Hamilton, Ontario.
Yeah.
There's some very public displays of disassembly. There are companies that are falling apart before our very eyes nationally. The Globe and Mail is strong in print. Post Media seems to be little bonfires everywhere.
That's right.
Unfortunate news about Black Press a little while ago. Tell me about the whole spectrum of the business in general in print.
It's difficult. A lot of different companies aren't sure how to deal with this. We were part of Post Media for a year and a half, whatever it was. I was very, very thankful that we were sold by them because I could see where it was going. We had the person in charge of Post Media in our office one day and gave a full talk to the staff. I left the building and I walked around the block for about an hour just trying to cool down because I thought everything they're talking about is wrong. If they had kept us rather than selling us, their bottom line would be stronger today. They made a mistake by getting rid of us. But the thing is, they wanted us to conform with all of the other papers across the country, and I think that's the worst thing you can do. You have to allow local people to run the place, and we're now in Glacier Media out of Vancouver, and they give me full control. I talk to them once every 2 weeks, and it's usually me calling them saying, "I want some money for this or that," whatever. It's the best relationship I've ever had with an employer, and I wouldn't be there if I wasn't enjoying it, and if I didn't have the strong support. And I tell them over and over again, there's no other community like Victoria in Canada. Local matters here more than anywhere else, and local connections matter more than anywhere else. I think that's the difference. In terms of print, I watch things like Black Press. I'm not sure what to say about that. I think that they, like us, have been trying to change with the times, but more of their revenue depends on flyers, and flyers are gradually disappearing. The stuffers that go inside of papers, they're gradually disappearing. We also have a very, very strong subscription base, and they are a free product. So that means that we always have that to fall back on. Without our loyal subscribers, we would not have survived the pandemic because advertising pretty much collapsed then. Yeah. We had very, very busy advertising sales people for the first couple of weeks of the pandemic. All they were doing was taking cancellation orders, and it's taken us a long time to get back out of that. But things are I think reaching a normal point again. Like look at the car lots. There are now cars on the car lots again. Yeah. But in general terms, the Globe and Mail is a special case. I know a lot of people really, really love the Globe and Mail for a wide variety of reasons. A lot of these things are like a good pair of old shoes. That you're comfortable. You've been getting it for a long, long time. We have people who swear by the TC or swear by the Globe or swear by whatever. Quite often they've been doing it for a long, long time. It's a habit they will never ever give up. I have my own preferences as well about what I like and what I don't like. The Globe is a special case in some ways because it's a national paper and it's heavily subsidized by the owners. They aren't really trying to make money; they're trying to make a difference. It's a cool thing to own, to say that you have that newspaper and keep the paper going. So I admire that. But on a local basis, I think we have the right formula.
Is it fair to say that you're in the print industry still?
I hate to say it, but yes, we're in the print industry.
Okay.
I hate being typecast as being a newsprint guy because we're an information source.
Yes.
And in terms of advertising and in terms of news content, we are an information source. And whether it's print or digital or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Like our job is information and getting it out.
Perspective and experience matters in media, as we all gather our news from whatever sources we do use to do that. We're going to talk about that next. Our guest on Chamber Chats today is Dave Obee. He is the publisher and the editor-in-chief of the Times Colonist. So you've got some folks that have been with the paper for a long time, and they have experience and they have perspective on issues that have come and gone and priorities shifting. A lot of media right now don't have the benefit of people who have experience, and I'll give you an example of that. I was listening to someone do a news story in another media where spoken word is used, and they were referring to the fact that the headliner at Sunfest was going to be a guy who used to be the lead singer of a band called Hootie and the Blowfish. But this person, of course, corrected it because they called it Hoodie and the Blowfish, not knowing who Hootie and the Blowfish were. But what difference does it make in media to have people with that experience compared to rookies? Because, I mean, you have to start somewhere, but still, experience matters.
Yeah, you need the mix of people. Like, I really think that One problem we have in the media right now, we need to get more younger people coming in. We need to get more younger voices, a different way of looking at things. But there's got to be a mix. Like when an older person retires, the people that you rely on for the good information, or like passing information on. Part of my job right now is telling people background, letting them know. In some cases, people got all excited about a story, and I say, "Well, wait, this has happened before. Like don't get excited. It's I know what the story is. It's a cool story, but it's not the end of the world. We've been through this before. It's very, very important to pass the information on and have older people there, more experienced people who have read more about say BC politics, for instance. There was one case a few years ago when we had a photograph of a guy named Cyril Shelford at an event somewhere in town, and the people who did the paper that day did not know that Cyril Shelford was the former minister in the Socred government back in the day. It's the kind of thing that you should add in as just to show that it's just important to keep that kind of information going. But that's the difference between people with experience, people who have the knowledge, the background, and people who don't.
So it's also good to have the younger people there to help the older ones understand technology when they have a glitch and they have to get something fixed. That's what you do.
Well, there's technology, that's for sure, but there's also just, I wouldn't necessarily understand, you talk about Hootie and the Blowfish, but what do I know about the latest, what do I know about Taylor Swift?
She's doing okay.
She's doing okay. Beyond that, and I know she's amazing, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, who's second to her right now? I have no idea. So there have to be people in the business. It's a job that I had, a long, long time ago.
Yep.
You people don't know who the Eagles are. Let me tell you who the Eagles are.
Yeah.
I try to enlighten the people who are older. Now I'm expecting the people younger than me to enlighten me in the same way.
Yeah. I want to reel this back a little bit and ask sort of a generic question, if you will, but it's what is news? Define news.
News, that's a tough definition. I know. It's news is the gut sense. News is, you look at it, it's news, or it's not. And it's based on experience. The role of a news organization is to inform, enlighten, and entertain. There's information that you should have, information that you might want to read. There's information that maybe you wouldn't have even thought about, but you stumble upon that story on our website or in our paper, and you say, hey, that's kind of cool. One thing that I find consistently is that people's idea of what news is. What is news? Is news some hard fact coming out of the government announcement, or is news something that people really, really want to read? One of the best examples I have of that is several years ago, we did a major takeout, like we call it, like 2 or 3 weeks of effort on the Shawnigan Lake water situation. And we posted it all online on a Sunday morning, and we got some reads. It was in our Islander section. We got some reads, not a huge number of reads. The same day, Nelly Furtado sang the anthem at an NBA All-Star game, and there were all kinds of complaints about that. I put together just comments on X or Twitter, whatever, Facebook, whatever I found.
Yeah.
I put that together, stitched it together into a bit of a story, a very, very short story. It took me maybe 10 minutes. I put it online, and within half an hour, it was the top story of the day on our website.
Yeah.
And you look at it and say, from one perspective, these people's comments about Nelly Furtado singing a song are completely irrelevant. Who cares? But the fact is, people want to read that kind of thing. And for us to say, well, we're not going to do that because it's not that important. We are then telling people what they should be consuming in terms of news more than I think we really should. So we got to be careful about that. Sometimes the stories that resonate the most and have the longest legs in terms of being read online, not for one day but for 6 months, are very, very light stories, like a photo of a guy mowing his lawn with a tornado in the background.
Yep.
Or Wendy the Whippet, the dog. Those are stories that were really cool stories, but they last a long time. One other good example. There are several good examples. Recipes, quite often. Soy sauce. Mm-hmm. That was our top story online for about 3 years running.
Was that one of Eric's pieces?
Eric Akes wrote that. Yeah. Soy sauce. Who would have thought? That I didn't read it when we published it. I didn't care. But then I realized this thing has legs. People all around the world are reading this story.
Wow. When I was in media, one of the things that I knew was always a priority that was, I won't call it fun, but it was very impacting, was to localize larger stories, regional, national, international stories. An example of that is what you did when the Ukraine-Russia thing started out. You have a personal stake in that, and you localized it that way. Tell us about that.
Well, my mother was born in Ukraine. Her parents were born in Ukraine. They were not Ukrainians. They were actually Germans living in Ukraine, but my mother was born in Ukraine. I've been back there many, many times to research family history and so on. That means going through the archives. That means actually having Ukrainians help me, people who can read the documents, understand the language, and so on. And in some cases, fight with the authorities to let me get in there. And I got to know these people very, very well. I got to know the people who were driving me from village to village. I've known some for 20 years now because they've helped me so often, and they're friends of mine. And as soon as the invasion happened, I'd been talking with one of my friends there before that, and I said, the Russians are going to attack. And he said, no, I think we're okay. I said, no, the Russians are going to attack. Get ready. As soon as I got his bank information from him, so as soon as the invasion happened, I got $500 to him right now.
Right.
And I kept that up, and I kept that up. This was for his family. This was not for him, or not for the community. This was for his family. And what happened after that was that he sent me a note saying how he had spent the money, and it was not on his family. It was on the community. So I figured, okay, I'll send more. Yeah. And it's now down to the point where I've donated probably $50,000-$60,000 now to Ukraine, primarily to the hospital in Zhytomyr, which is the big city near where my mother was born, and they are using that to get laparoscopic equipment so they can do the precision surgery. They have told me a couple of different things. They've told me that I have saved hundreds of lives with what I've done, and they've also told me that if ever I want to get medical care, all I have to do is go there, and they'll operate for free.
And they'll take care of you.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if I need that much. I could make the flight, but whatever. It's important because community matters. Community, supporting a community, it's someone else's community, but they need help right now.
Yeah.
I could spend that money on luxuries, or I could save some lives. What's the choice here? There's no choice.
But that's the call to action that you put in place by localizing something that was happening
that's correct.
In another part of the world.
I did a column about that. I did and I explained what I was doing. I had several people sending me money to help because they understood the reason. Like the Ukraine to me is not some obscure abstract thing. It's something very, very close to me. Yeah. And look at all the Ukrainians, people of Ukrainian descent in this community. How many people came forward who did not have Ukrainian names, who told me that their mother or their grandmother or whatever, people, very prominent people contacted me, reached out to me because they saw Ukraine as being a local story, not one far away.
Yeah. Okay, so something else that maybe has gone by the wayside or at least has changed, the access that we have to elected officials. Do you remember press conferences? We're going to talk about that next. We're talking news coverage today across our region with Dave Obee, who is our guest on Chamber Chats. Dave, of course, is the publisher and the editor-in-chief of the Times Colonist. So you and I talked about this another time, but the idea of the premier, minister, answer this question, standing there, microphones, a scrum, has been replaced, which has meant less access to elected officials. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. COVID was one of the worst things to happen to us in terms of democracy, in terms of access to officials, because what happened before a press conference would be alive, and there would be a certain sort of almost pecking order at some press conference, like one in BC, were involving politics. I could tell you who the first three people to ask questions would be, because they were the established people. They had earned the right over many, many years to be that. Comes COVID, and all of a sudden it's all being done remotely on Zoom or whatever. And now it took about one press conference for the people in government, both in Victoria and in Ottawa, to realize, hey, we can control who asks these questions. So as a result, if a reporter asked a question that the government didn't want to hear, you were allowed a follow-up question. They didn't answer the first one, didn't answer the follow-up question, and now you're cut off. You're done. You cannot answer another question or ask another question, and you're not going to be allowed to ask a question for a few press conferences until you learn your lesson. And that was absolutely despicable what happened. because that meant that and if people would see, hey, if that reporter, one of the most prominent reporters, columnists, whatever, in this province is being shut out by the government, what'll happen to little me?
Yeah.
So the chill that descended over that was brutal. And I don't think people realize necessarily, the readers and viewers don't realize what happened there. I think it was vital what happened, vital to know what happened, simply because it destroyed much of that bond. So we end up having stories that are simply the party line, with no tough questions being asked, because they weren't being allowed. They were being shut out. And that was really, really bad for, as I say, for democracy.
Something rather what we do at the Chamber as well when we have live in-person events with elected officials too.
Yeah.
And I very often am hearing more and more, and I listen to CBC radio a lot, and they'll very often say, we reached out to so-and-so in the ministry or the minister, and they declined comment. Because you can't get them in person. We're just about out of time, but when you talk about localizing things, the amount of money that you and the TC have raised for this community is formidable for things like the book sale and the Christmas fund and all the stuff you do. Tell me about that and why you do it.
To make the community a better place. We started the book drive. I was one of the people behind the first one back in 1998, because the government had cut funding to school libraries. So we thought, what can we do? Can we come up with some idea? We came up with the idea of a book drive. The first year we raised $20,000. We do much more than that now.
Yes, you do.
It's phenomenal what happened, how much money we raised. But the idea was to provide, what's the way that we can get more money to those school libraries, and the byproduct of that was then giving people a chance to clear out their basements and their shelves and so on, replace them with other books,
with other books that they buy at the sale.
Yeah, they buy at the sale. Sometimes they buy the same book back, I'm assuming. There were some books that I saw come through 2 and 3, 4 years in a row. Wow. Very rare books, but no one wants it. They always think they do. But the goal behind that is to help the community in some way. The Christmas Fund has been around since 1956, and I'm very, very proud of what we do every year. We changed the way that we promote it. We changed the way that we run it, and now we're at $1 million a year in terms of what we raise, and we are absolutely determined to keep our administration costs as low as we possibly can, because whatever we take out of that fund to pay for salary, whatever, it means less going to where we want it to go. Yeah. So absolutely keep these costs down to nothing, as low as we can possibly make them, mainly credit card fees. And help the community, because I believe the media has a role, a responsibility in helping the community in whatever way we can.
Dave Obee is the publisher and editor-in-chief of the Times Colonist. Support the TC all ways you can, whether it's online or if you want to just sit down and read the paper.
Yeah, you can do that too.
Yeah.
I can arrange it.
Thanks for all you do, Dave. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I'm Bruce Williams. We'll see you again for another Chamber Chat.